She spun around, scanning every corner of the space. What had she overlooked? Her mind raced through the details: doors, windows, the book on the shelf, the note. She retraced her steps back to the living room, scanning the floor, the furniture, the shadows. And then she saw it, something she hadn't noticed before. A second piece of paper wedged under the leg of the couch, barely visible. Hands trembling, she pulled it free. Unlike the first note, this one contained a name. A name she hadn't heard in years. A name she thought belonged to someone long gone from her life. The shock hit her harder than she expected. Memories flooded back: arguments, unfinished conversations, promises that dissolved overnight. The disappearance that never made sense. She had spent years convincing herself that chapter was closed. But seeing the name now, in this context, made her realize the past wasn't just resurfacing. It was intertwining with the present in ways she hadn't imagined. Her heart pounded as she tried to understand the connection. Could this person be behind everything? Or were they another piece of the puzzle? The thought that someone from her past might be manipulating her now added a new layer of fear, a deeper sense of betrayal. Before she could process it, another sound echoed, this time from outside her apartment window. A slow, deliberate tap. Once. Then again. She turned toward the glass, breath caught in her throat. Someone was out there. Watching. And they wanted her to know it. Here is a natural, suspense-driven 400-word climax with a final unexpected twist, resolving the key conflicts while keeping everything YouTube safe and human-centric. She stood frozen, staring at the window as the slow, deliberate tapping continued. Her breath felt tight in her chest, but something inside her shifted. She was tired of running, tired of guessing, tired of feeling like a visitor in her own life. She walked toward the window with steady steps, forcing herself not to look away. When she finally pulled back the curtain, her heart nearly stopped. A figure stood outside, hood up, face half hidden, but unmistakably familiar. She recognized the stance, the way they shifted their weight, the way they looked directly at her as if they had been waiting for this moment. The name from the second note. It was really them. After years of silence, they had returned not with an explanation, but with fear and confusion. She pushed the window open just enough to speak. "Why are you doing this?" she whispered. The figure didn't answer. Instead, they slipped something through the small opening, a single folded paper, and disappeared into the darkness before she could stop them. Her pulse hammered as she locked the window and unfolded the note. This time, the message wasn't cryptic. It was direct, almost desperate. You were never the target. You're in the middle of something bigger. Get out now. Asterisk. The words made no sense. Who was the real threat, then? If not them, then who had been inside her home, leaving clues, moving objects, sending messages? A sudden realization struck her: someone had used her past to manipulate her fears. Someone who knew her history, her weak spots, her closest connections. She rushed back to the living room, scanning the notes again. The handwriting looked familiar, but not from the person outside. It matched someone else. Someone she worked with every day. Someone she trusted. The colleague who had been watching her too closely, asking subtle questions, acting concerned. It clicked all at once. They had orchestrated everything, using her past as a mask. The intrusions, the texts, the clues, it was all part of a plan to isolate her, to push her into panic so she wouldn't notice what they were doing at work. The real motive wasn't personal. It was professional. They needed her out of the way. Determined, she gathered the notes and headed straight to confront them. When she arrived, they were already there, calm. Expecting her. The truth unraveled quickly, almost too easily. They had been behind everything, and they admitted it with a quiet arrogance that chilled her. But just as she thought the confrontation was over, her phone buzzed. A new message. You trusted the wrong person again. Asterisk. She looked up, and her colleague's expression shifted, confused, as if they hadn't sent it. The real mastermind was still out there. The street felt strangely calm afterward, as if the storm that had been building for so long had finally begun to settle. The flashing lights faded, the noise softened, and a quiet reality settled over everyone who had been caught in the chaos. Maya stood there for a moment, letting her breath steady, feeling the weight of everything that had happened. For the first time in weeks, her mind wasn't racing. It was just still. She looked around at the people who had helped her, at the neighbors who had stepped in when things felt impossible, and she realized how much strength she had gained from them without even noticing. The conflict that once felt too big for her now seemed like something she had been meant to face all along. Later, as she walked home, the night air felt cooler, almost refreshing. The streets she had once feared suddenly felt familiar again, like they belonged to her instead of the shadows that had tried to take them. She kept thinking about every small decision that led her here, every clue she followed, every moment she doubted herself. Now, with the truth exposed and the real threat finally gone, she could breathe in a way she hadn't been able to for so long. Even the silence felt different, less heavy, more peaceful, like it was making space for something new. In the days that followed, life slowly returned to normal. People talked about what happened, but the tone had shifted. There was less fear and more relief, less confusion and more clarity. Maya found herself becoming a quiet symbol of resilience in the neighborhood. Not because she wanted attention, but because people had seen her stand firm when things got dark. She didn't see herself as a hero, though. She just saw herself as someone who refused to walk away when it mattered most. One afternoon, while sorting through the last bits of paperwork tied to the case, Maya found something surprising, a small detail she had missed earlier, a detail that hinted that someone else had been quietly helping her from the sidelines. It wasn't another threat, just a quiet reminder that not all mysteries stay hidden for dark reasons. Sometimes people protect from the shadows too. She smiled at the thought, letting it stay a secret she didn't need to chase. By the end of the week, the city felt brighter. Maya stood by her window, watching the evening settle in, and felt an unexpected sense of closure. The journey had changed her, taught her how strong she could be, and how important it was to trust her instincts. The conflict was over now, but the lessons stayed with her, simple, human, and real. And as she closed the window and stepped back into her quiet home, she felt certain that whatever came next, she would face it with the same quiet courage that had carried her through this story. The second black car didn't move as I stepped off the bus, but I could feel someone inside watching every one of my steps. I held the envelope tighter, my heart beat loud in my ears. Part of me wanted to run home and lock the door behind me, but something told me I wouldn't be safe there either. My husband's world had finally collided with mine, and there was no hiding anymore. I took a slow breath and continued walking, forcing myself not to look back again. When I reached the middle of the street, the car door finally opened. A man stepped out, not rushing, not threatening, just calm in a way that somehow scared me even more. I recognized him instantly. He wasn't one of the men who questioned me at the hotel. He was someone I had only seen once before, stand